Tales from the Beachside, a tribute to museum volunteer Barb Zafuto. Today, Barb and the Flagler Avenue walking tour visit the Watch and Warn Memorial.
You have to understand the military wasn't as military then. For example, the Coast Guard was made up of people who owned boats, and it was kind of like a club. If you owned a boat and if someone was in trouble out in the water, they'd call a couple of the club members with the right size boats and go out and help them. Well, they knew that they needed more Coast Guard to observe, not just to help people that way, but to observe where these U-boats were and to watch out for them. So that became a little more military, and they didn't have a place for them to live yet, so they lived in the Riverview Hotel, believe it or not, in its gray ghost days. It looked horrible. But anyway, and so they were training them. They would put great big, they looked like lifeguard stands, but they were 2 stories tall, and a Coast Guard guy would climb it at the top and sit there for a 4-hour shift. And he would come down and another guy would go up. In between the towers, they would walk back and forth. They were, I can't remember how many miles apart, a couple miles apart, I think. They also sent them to the top of the lighthouse to watch from there 24 hours a day. So they were watching for the U-boats, but they needed something else, they thought. They needed some way to spot airplanes. They were afraid they'd be next. So there was no Air Force yet, but it's on there. The Army, U.S. Army Air Force had been formed. What they did is they cataloged every airplane in the world. It was 142 pages, and there'd be a picture. It would say its range, the altitude it could go to, all those things. And they trained volunteers to figure out where they were going. Well, how'd they do all this? There used to be a water tower here. In your little thing, I think you'll see a picture of the water tower, or part of it at least, with the platform that looks like a triangle that they built. And they trained the volunteers to climb up that water tower to that platform and spend 4 hours there. And the names of those volunteers are on your brochure all the way around the outside. And here, come with me, they're all around on the concrete. Gives their names. They're all alphabetical. All the way around. This side's pretty bad. The weather's really getting it. But here's her name. Here's Hannah Benet and her daughter Jean. They were volunteers. Jean was just a teenager. And she and her mother would crawl up there and be there for 4 hours. Now there was a telephone up there. At first when you picked it up, you'd be connected to Jacksonville. And you would try to estimate its distance, no, not distance, direction, speed, altitude, and all those things, heading, and what kind of plane it was, if you could tell. The end of the story is they never spotted an enemy airplane. But that's kind of good news, because meanwhile they were spotting lots of U-boats. And so by the end of the war, between Jacksonville and here, they had sunk 93 U-boats.
Wow.
92 were German and 1 was Italian. One of the stories is very shortly after they started this, in about 42, they would see Germans in rubber boats coming off of U-boats, coming ashore with their hands up.
Oh, they were surrendering.
They were surrendering,
Wow,
and we had a prisoner of war camp here. And it was a good one to be in because it was a nice place.
Seafood.
And they could work and make money. Can you imagine?
They deserved
And
it.
so at the
Then there
end
was
of the
some- yeah, there
war,
was some-
all of them in those camps became naturalized citizens.